And we're live. We're live. We had technical difficulties. We're sorry, all our friends out there. I know some of my cousins out in Colorado were watching. We're sorry. Well, we're a little late here. But we're all good. And I don't want to say there was a virus in the computer because there's a virus outside. That's why we're inside. And thank you, all you teachers, all you kids, all you parents, moms and dads for watching today. And today I have Ralph Masiello, a wonderful illustrator, an incredible guy. And I'll tell you the story. The first book I ever wrote was the Ocean Alphabet book. And that was painted by my cousin, Frank Masiello Jr. People mix up Frank and Ralph Masiello. Here's Ralph Masiello in his purple, you'll see Ralph in a minute in his purple shirt. And Ralph is not my cousin. So a lot of people over the years, teachers think Ralph's my cousin. No. Well, anyways, Ralph painted a book for me when he was 26 years old. That was a long time ago, 34 years ago, I think. I'm not sure. But here it is right here, the Icky Bug Alphabet book. It's one of my best-selling books. And I have to thank Ralph, excuse me. I have to thank Ralph for doing such a beautiful job. So there's the Icky Bug Alphabet book. It did so well that they did a board version of it. So there's the board version, Icky Bug board for little kids. And so Ralph went on to do a bunch of books for me. He did the Icky Bug Alphabet. And then the next book we did was the Yucky Reptile Alphabet book. And the next book he did for me, this was around the time of the Jurassic Park movie. So he did the Dinosaur Alphabet book for me. And of course, along the way, we decided we'd do a counting book. So we did the Icky Bug Counting book, a really beautiful book. In fact, I just love the artwork. All the books are great. Ralph's an unbelievable painter. He's just an incredible painter. You know, I've been to his studio. You know how authors say they never meet the illustrators, or illustrators say they never meet the authors? That's not true with us. We work together as a team. In fact, people don't know this, but when we first started out, we couldn't afford 2 hotel rooms. So when we visited schools all over the country, we used to stay in the same hotel room. That's why our books got a little crazy. We hid presidents in the book, and we hid names in the books, and that's because we had nothing to do sometimes, and we were signing books together. And yeah, there's the Skull Alphabet book, which many people think is the best book I've ever done. In fact, my wife thought it was the most creative, coolest, most unbelievable book. And thank you, Ralph, for the incredible job you did on the Skull book.
Thank you.
By the way, a lot of kids know me as the Who Would Win guy, but really, my career really started painting books with Ralph Masiello. I don't know if I forgot any books, Ralph. Oh, yeah, the Frog book. He painted a book of frog for me. Frog Alphabet. There's the Frog Alphabet right there. Good job. So really, it's Ralph's day, you know. The other day we had illustrator I'm laughing.
One of those illustrators.
What's that? We had illustrator
One of those
David.
illustrators.
We had illustrator E.B. Lewis. Well, today is Ralph's day. We had author-illustrator Marianne Coca Leffler. Today is Ralph's day. I wanted all you kids and teachers out there to meet Ralph Masiello. I have done nothing but laugh for 30 years working with Ralph Masiello. People always say to me, who's your best illustrator? And I go, well, you'd have to work with Ralph to really know how much fun it is to make books. So, in fact, this is something you probably never knew. Look what he did one day. He painted a spider on my head. We were at a conference. There it is right there, I think. Ralph painted a spider on my head with what do you call those markers that don't erase?
Sharpie.
So Ralph, take it away, Ralph. Where did you grow up? Where are you sitting right now? Right now, where are you sitting?
I'm in my absolute brand new studio. I just moved here this past week, which has been the problem with me getting online with you guys, because everything's been in boxes, and because of the coronavirus, I had no help moving. So I moved a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage, basement, and shed into a 1-bedroom in a storage unit. So it's been kind of crazy. So yeah, this is my new place, my new studio area, which kind of like, I like the knotty pine and stuff. And Jerry, The funny thing about the frog book is I never wanted to do a frog book. I don't know if you remember this story, but I never wanted to do anything with frogs because I'm terrified of frogs. I'd kiss a snake before I even look at a frog. Because when I was a little kid, I was like 4 years old, my brother stuck me in a rabbit cage filled with bullfrogs and rolled me down a hill. And I've been terrified of frogs my entire life. I raced motorcycles. If you kids know what motocross is, I'm going to be 59 tomorrow. I race motocross, which is, the jumps and stuff. I'm not afraid of that, but I see a tree frog this big, and I'm running and crying like a little baby. But so anyway, I did the frog book, hoping I'd cure my fear of frogs. It never did. It never did. So it's been a whirlwind ride working with Jerry. The first time I met Jerry, so he called me on the phone. He found my business card somewhere. And he called me on the phone. He said, I'm an author. Actually, at the time, he was an insurance salesman who was a budding author. He said, I'm an author. I'm doing a kid's book. I'm like, oh, I've never done a kid's book before. I was doing editorial illustration for magazines and stuff. And he said, well, meet me and we'll talk about it. I'm like, when do you want to meet? He goes, like 5 a.m. at the International House of Pancakes. I'm like, okay, we had our first business meeting at IHOP, the Pancake House. We sat down. I was wearing a snakeskin belt and lizard boots. And immediately he thought I needed to do a reptile book. But the first book was actually the Icky Bug Alphabet book. Now, a little background about me. For those of you that don't know me, I grew up in Massachusetts. And when I was a kid, I didn't think I could draw. All my teachers told me I could draw. I never believed them. And I didn't have art classes or anything growing up. In high school, I took some scuba classes and decided to become a marine biologist. So I went to school for marine biology before I went to art school. And when I was drawing my dissection, somebody convinced me to take an art class because they saw my dissection drawings. So I took this art class thinking, well, I'll give it a shot, see what it's like. I loved it. And I actually left science school and I went to the Rhode Island School of Design in Providence. And that's where I studied illustration. And some of you may be familiar with my teachers. One of my teachers was Chris Van Allsburg, who did the Polar Express book and Jumanji and Zathura. And another one was David Macaulay, who did Castle, Cathedral, Pyramid, Black and White, those books. So I had some great teachers. And actually, Brian Selznick, who did the Houdini box and the invention of Hugo Cabret, he was a younger classmate of mine. So went to this great school, graduated, became a professional illustrator. But I never thought about doing kids' books. I was always into doing editorial illustrations for magazines. And it wasn't until I met Jerry. So I meet Jerry, he's like, you need to do a reptile book. But we did the Icky Bug Alphabet book. And I had no idea how much fun doing kids' books would be. So the first book was the Icky Bug Alphabet book. And the thing still sells like crazy. I just love this book. And kids in schools love the book. Some of the funny things that have happened over the years is, Jerry, we had to do a page for the frog alphabet book, and there's a Goliath frog. Now, Goliath frogs are the largest frogs in the world. Do you remember the story, Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the Goliath frog, largest frog in the world, comes from Cameroon, Africa. Now, we didn't have any good pictures of it because we did the book in like 1990, and there was no internet for us to go searching or anything. And I had a studio in Worcester, Massachusetts, and Jerry lived out in Needham, Massachusetts, like 45, 50 miles away. And we couldn't communicate through email. So I'm like, Jerry, I can't find any pictures of this Goliath frog. He's like, well, let me go to, what was the name of the place? The Museum of Comparative Zoology?
Harvard Museum of Comparative
Harvard.
Zoology.
So he goes to Harvard and talks to the scientist and is like, yeah, I'll help you out, Jerry. So they go down in the basement where they have all the specimen jars. And we got a good photograph of this somewhere. The guy unscrews the lid of a jar, reaches into a jar and pulls out this big Goliath frog. Now, they're about the length of a baby. They're like that big. He pulled the jar. Jerry, how long ago was that in that frog in the jar? I think the frog was in the jar in like 1928 or something.
Yeah, caught in 1928 or 1930. in
Yeah.
Cameroon,
So the
Africa.
guy takes it out of the jar
Harvard professors.
and he puts it on a copying machine because I couldn't see any good pictures of this frog's legs.
Xerox
So
machine.
a Xerox machine. So he copied the legs on a Xerox, and that night I'm up in my studio in Worcester, Mass. And it's like 4 stories up in this old warehouse, and I was locked out. It was like 11 o'clock at night. It's dark out, and I hear little things hitting my window. I'm like, what is that? I look down and I see the shiny dome of something. It's Jerry's head, and he's waving these papers. I'm like, what are you doing here? So I go down, unlock the door, and he's laughing like a little kid. I've got the pictures, and he's got the Xeroxes of the frog legs. And from that, I was able to paint the picture of the Goliath frog's legs, which here's how I painted the Goliath frog. Right there.
How big they are.
Yeah. So that's actual size, kind of like comparative size. So there's the Goliath frog.
I had a great picture of a kid in Africa holding a Goliath frog. I couldn't find it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Keep going. Tell us about yourself.
So anyway, so I've been visiting schools. I'm going to zoom back to like 1987, I think it was. And part-time on the weekends, I would drive limousines. One of my buddies had a limousine company, so I was driving limousines. And I had these big super stretch limousines, like the rock star limousines. I'd drive these people around. By the way, I had Sammy Davis, Liza Minnelli, and Frank Sinatra in my car all at once. That was pretty cool. So I was driving a girl to her graduation at the University of Lowell, Mass, and she was the first woman to get her doctorate in literature, I believe. And her brother wanted to surprise her by getting a limousine. So I got the limousine, driving to pick her up, pulled right to the podium and everything during her graduation. She came off the graduation stage, got right in the limousine, we drove away. And as I'm driving, she's like, so is this what you normally do? I'm like, no, I'm a kid's book illustrator. She says, you're a kid's book illustrator? I put on a program during the summer for teachers. Would you come and talk to our teachers about illustrating books? I'm like, oh, a little scared. I'd never talked to teachers before in an adult setting. So I said, would you mind if I brought the author with me? And she's like, yeah, sure, you can bring the author. So I called up Jerry. I'm like, Jerry, they're going to give me $200 to go and talk to them, to the teachers. I don't know what to do. Can you come? It's like, yeah. So we went to this thing at the University of Lowell.
That might be the first time we ever spoke to teachers.
Yeah, very first time we ever spoke to teachers.
$200 was $1 million back then.
Yeah, I thought I was like a rock star. I got a split with Jerry. Here's $100. I got $100. Woohoo! $100 for like driving all the way there, talking to them. He pretended he knew what he was talking about. I pretended I knew what I was talking about. We had a great time, and then we started getting calls from teachers that were in that program and said, would you come to our classroom? Now, Jerry was the first one of us that decided. I was like, I don't know if I want to go into a classroom and do this. So Jerry started doing it, and as you all know, Jerry's been to like a million schools. I see Mike Shoulders just came on. I've been to Clarksville, Tennessee. Hey, before I finish that story, look what I have here, Mike Shoulders. Look at this. One of my prized possessions. Who's that down there? Mike Shoulders.
Never heard of him.
On the floor. What?
I've never heard of him.
Never heard of him. I don't know. He's just some guy that came on. So Jerry's been visiting schools like crazy for years. I've been to over 2,800 schools. Now, Jerry's been way more than me, but I've been to over 2,800 schools, and love visiting schools. And it's become my greatest joy in my career is, besides doing the illustrations for the books, visiting schools is my favorite. And in about 1998, I started drawing a little bug with an O, a U, and a T, and a Z. And I'd show kids how to draw this simple little bug, because early in my school visits, I would draw things that are a little more detailed, and the kids couldn't draw them. And they get frustrated. So I decided, well, what I would do is I draw simple things. And so it actually ended up turning into a book series. So the first book in this is my own series, is the Ralph Masiello's Bug Drawing Book. And I kind of
By
think
the
of
way,
it like,
Ralphie,
yeah, go ahead.
I love your drawing books. Congratulations. You know
Thank
what I
you.
always say? A lot of people say they're going to do it and they never do it. And you did it. You had a vision of what you wanted. You thought of it. You did it. They're terrific. I love your drawing books.
And I've
In
got a
fact,
ton
I
more.
think the cover to the Dragon drawing book is like the greatest cover of any children's book ever. That's what I think
Thank
of
you.
that. I don't know if you have it there.
I have it, but I wanted to share with everybody. I think of it like building with Lego. You know, when kids build these big Lego contraptions, it's amazing to an adult. Like, whoa, look what they did! It's amazing. They built this beautiful Lego thing. Well, they didn't slap all the Lego pieces together in one big pile. They started with one little tiny piece, one simple piece. And on that simple piece, they added another simple piece until you get something more complex. So I think of it as like drawing like Lego. And by the way, I turned myself into one of the creatures. I shaved my beard off the other day, so I don't have a beard. But as you can see, it's all broken down, simple, step by step, color. This is kind of like the OUTZ bug that I did. So I did that one. That one took off. And so I'm actually under contract to do 20 of these. This is the second book in the series, the Ocean book.
Ocean
and then this is the one Jerry was talking about.
I love that cover. Woo! Woo!
The Dragon drawing book. This is one of my favorites. It's a lot of different dragons from different cultures all over the world, even a Mayan celestial dragon. Okay, so these different cultures. One of my favorites is really this one, the Ancient Egypt drawing book. That's one of my real favorites. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I've got different language versions of my books in front of me. But you can get my books in Chinese. You can get them in Spanish. The Dragon book is actually in Danish. The Dragon book in Danish is Tegen Drager. Kind of sounds dragony. There's the Halloween drawing book, Robot drawing book in Chinese. For some reason, I've got a bunch of Chinese books in front of me. There's the Farm drawing book, Christmas drawing book. Then I had to do a book I did not want to do, but my 24-year-old daughter has been driving me insane since she was 3 years old to do this book for her. And I kept saying, no way, I don't do that kind of book. She's like, but Daddy, please do the book for me. Don't you love me? So she wore me down and I did the fairy book. And by the way, there's me in the fairy book. Yay! Couldn't wait to tell my biker friends I was doing that book. My most recent in the series is the Alien drawing book. This guy over here, that's me before I have my coffee in the morning. Later on, I'm going to draw something for you guys that's got a coffee influence thing. I also did a book for older kids called The Mystic Clouds Beast. This is a visual journal of a fictitious 13-year-old girl who is set off on a quest by a mysterious person to do research in the mythological creatures. Yeah.
You got to show Ralph, show everyone the drawing. There's two drawings I love in that book. One is the phoenix, I think, coming out of the fire. And the other one is, I think it's a horse with wings and like a dolphin tail. What do you call a horse with wings?
Is the title page there. That's the Tarot Campus.
Is that it? So it's got wings and it has a fish tail and it's a horse. I love that.
It's pronounced Tarot Campus, but it's spelled P-T-E-R, Tarot Campus. It's a mythological creature, I think. And the other one was the Phoenix, which I'll try to find here. I got a really funny story about this book. It's a kind of an insane story. Let's see, where's the Phoenix? I got a griffin here. Oh, here's the Phoenix.
I love that drawing. Look at that painting, everybody. Look at that painting. Wow. So that painting is up at Charlesbridge Publishing on the wall.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
asked the
it's on the
president,
wall.
Brent. I asked Brent, the president, if I could buy it. I go, can I buy that painting? Because it's up in the
No.
publisher. It's up on the
Yeah,
wall.
he's got that one. He's got the griffin
Yeah,
and the unicorn. He's got the unicorn too.
yeah.
So-
By the way, before I forget, Ralph, look at this. I wore a bug tie today just for you. How do you like that,
That's
Ralphie?
awesome.
How do you like that bug tie?
Cicada. I love cicadas. Here's the unicorn.
Wow,
So actually,
unicorns are big.
the next in my how to draw series is actually unicorns, and then in the unicorn drawing book I have a unikitty, a unipuppy, a flying unipig, typical unicorns.
Did you invent the
Right.
unipig?
Somebody asked me if I paint by hand or I paint by numbers. No, I use lead paint and turpentine. But recently, I started doing some work on an iPad with an Apple Pencil, and this is the result. But before I get to that, I gotta tell you this funny story. I forgot to tell you the story. So, you guys have heard of the Loch Ness Monster, right? So there's a famous photograph of a Loch Ness Monster swimming. It's black and white. Now, I wanted to use that photograph in the book, but it is copywritten. And the publisher tried to find out how they could get the thing to be used in the book. Now, the people that own the copyright in Scotland, they wanted the publisher to pay $2,200 for it. I was like, okay, pay for it. They're like, no, we want you to pay for it. Like, I'm not paying $2,200 for a grainy black and white photograph of whatever that thing is. So I went to Home Depot and I bought chicken wire, which is basically screen, and I sculpted the neck of a sea serpent. Like, it was like 3 feet tall. I wrapped it with black duct tape and put my arm up inside of it. On a cold fall day, I walked down into a river, in the Quabog River in Brookfield, Massachusetts. I walked into the river. I had held lead weights on my chest. I had my arm up inside the thing, and I walked down into the river, and I became the Ralph Ness Monster. I swam upside down underwater with that thing sticking up. Now, let me tell you something. Try swimming underwater upside down. It's not easy. Stick your arm out of the water as you're swimming and put lead weights on your chest so your body doesn't show for the photographer. I was nearly having a heart attack underwater. Every time I came up, the photographer's like, you're not swimming fast enough. You're not making a wake behind you. I'm like, I'm not a motorboat. I'm a person. He's like, swim faster. And what was really funny was there was a bridge nearby, and people on the bridge thought it was real. So they were like stopping on the bridge looking. And I'd like come up, I'd pretend it was attacking me, and I'd be yelling and screaming with my other arm. I'd go underwater, come back up. Eventually, they're like, oh, it's just some idiot in the water with this thing on his arm. Finally, the guy got a good photograph of it, and he's like, come out of the water. So I'm coming out of the water, and all of a sudden he had a weird look on his face. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm so sorry. What? He goes, I totally forgot about this. You didn't swallow any of that water, did you? I'm like, I've been in the water for an hour swimming upside down. It's in my nose, it's in my mouth, it's in my ears. He's like, Spencer, Massachusetts, their sewage system broke the other day. All the sewage is flowing down from upstream. I was swimming through human poop. So I'm a poop swimmer. Yay! I went home and took a 14-hour shower. I swam through poop for a book. Jerry, have you swam through poop for a book yet?
No, I can't say that I did that.
But here it is. It was worth it because I made it into the book. That's me right there, swimming through poop. Now, it does not tell you in the book that's me. That's something personal.
Wow, that's great.
So that's me.
Yeah.
So that was one of the funny things that happened when I was doing the book. This is my brand new book. This one just came out last month.
What's this one? Fantastic Fruits?
Fantastic Fruits, a Grimmel Grove coloring book. This is a coloring book. It's actually kind of like a high-end coloring book because it's got flaps and it tells the story of this guy, Adolf Grimmel. And it's all different rare tropical fruits. Now, if you don't mind me telling the story of
Go ahead,
Grimmel
tell
Grove. Okay, so Back in the 1950s, this guy, Adolf Grimmel, what a name, right? Adolf Grimmel. He's an engineer not like a railroad engineer. He's got an engineering job in Michigan. He quits his engineering job to do underwater photography for NASA all around the Florida Keys. And while he's down there, he gets interested in rare tropical fruit for some reason. So he buys 2.5 acres of land on this little tiny island called Big Pine Key. Now, Big Pine Key back in the 1950s, there was really nothing there. It was all scrub grass and stuff. And he was telling people he was going to grow fruit there. Now, if you know anything about the Florida Keys, the little islands off the coast of Florida, they're all cap rock. They're solid rock. You can't grow anything in them, and there's really no soil. So, and fruit trees love soil, and plus it's salt air, salt water. Fruit trees don't like salt air and salt water. So, in 40 years, with a pick and shovel, the guy chipped away at his property and created an elaborate system of waterways and rain collection cisterns. He blasted holes in the property without, with dynamite, without a permit. I'm sure the neighbors love that. He put a big fence up around the property. He was like one of these guys. You don't go on my grass. Stay off my lawn. So he had a big fence around the property, and nobody was allowed to go in there. And he trucked in soil from the mainland, and with a wheelbarrow and a shovel, in 40 years, covered the entire property with rich, fertile soil. Now that's amazing in itself. But it's where he gets the fruit that's really amazing. I tell kids it's like Raiders of the Lost Fruit. He wanted a lychee plant. Now lychees have been growing in the United States since the 1800s, when the Chinese railroad workers came to work on the railroads, and they brought lychee plants. Now he didn't want one of those. He wanted one from the source. So in the 1950s, he snuck into China. Now back in the 1950s, you weren't allowed to, as a U.S. citizen, you weren't allowed to go to China. You'd be arrested as a spy or something. So he sneaks into China, goes to a Buddhist monastery, convinces a Buddhist monk to steal a lychee plant from a palace. Now, he steals the plant, and he brings it back to Big Pine Key, Florida. It is growing in this 2.5 acres of land right now. And there's another one called the Nawaga sapote, which is like a heart-shaped canistel kind of fruit, if you know anything about canistels. It's a really sweet, delicious fruit. He hears about a tribe in Peru that's growing this Nawaga sapote. So he takes a trip to the jungles of Peru. And back in the 1950s again, or early 60s, whenever he went, wasn't really a safe place to go to into the jungles. Not safe now. And he traveled and he met an indigenous tribe, one of these primitive tribes that never sees the outside world. And he convinces them to give him one of these fruit plants and seeds and stuff, and he brings it back. And is growing on this 2.5 acres of land right now. Now I'm going to fast forward 50 years. Due to deforestation and other things, all those plants in Peru are gone. The only plants in existence are on 2.5 acres of land in Florida right now, and that tribe is extinct. Yeah. So actually, I was telling Jane Yolen some of the stories about Adolf Grimmel, and she was thinking that she might want to write a story of the guy, because it's really, he's a crazy character. He died in 1998, and he had no kids or anything. So nobody wanted the property. Nobody knew what it was. He had like 200 species of the rarest plants on earth in 2.5 acres of land. It became an abandoned property, and homeless people were living on it, and invasive species.
So is there a star fruit? Is there a star fruit there?
Yes, star fruit. Yep, star fruit. So in 2011, this guy Patrick Garvey and his wife are traveling through the Florida Keys, and he's a fruit expert. And somebody said, "Hey, you ought to go check out the Grimmel estate." Well, it wasn't really an estate at that point. It was like homeless people living there, people throwing their trash in there. It was a mess. But he saw rare fruit in the trees that he had never seen. So he quit his job, sold off his 401k, and bought the property, started bringing it back to life. And it was doing really well. He started having music festivals in there, and chefs were coming in and cooking for the wealthy people from Key West and all around, in Miami. And it became a really cool place. And what was it, 4 years ago, Hurricane Irma hit the Florida Keys. What island did it hit? Big Pine Key. Wiped out the place flat. So this family, the O'Learys from Key West, Florida, I've known Karen O'Leary since I was in school for marine biology. And she's like, "You've got to come down here and do a book about fruit." And I was like, "I don't want to do a book about fruit."
Yeah.
But we flew down. I flew down, and they showed me the grove, and they told me the story. I ate off grandma, and I was sold. So the
That's a
grove
great
is coming
idea.
back.
It's
The
just
grove
another
is coming
great
back to my
story.
show. So this was a book.
It's another
Inspired.
great
The book
story
is,
of where book ideas come from, you know?
yeah, exactly. So the book is really a way for people to understand a little bit about rare tropical fruit and sustainable food sources, and to learn about a little bit about the Grimmel Grove and maybe support it. So, Jerry, you were talking about the star fruit.
Yeah.
The carambola is what it's called.
Wow.
There's the
Nice.
star fruit.
I
And
like
this one
that
over
stuff.
here on the other side is the jaboticaba. And these fruits grow all over the trunk of a tree. Like if you ever look up jaboticaba, sometimes you can't even see the trunk. It's covered with fruit. They're little berries.
All
Cover the
right,
entire thing.
Ralphie, we're going a little
Yeah.
late here. We're going a little late here. So, can I show
I
a
was gonna-
couple of your covers, and then you
Yeah,
could
while
do
you're doing that, I'm
lettering?
gonna set up. I'm gonna set up my easel to draw. So I'll draw a little something. Okay.
Yeah, and Ralphie, behind the scenes, we have two. I call them my secret weapons. We have Jamie, who's in Texas, and we have Mary Alice, who's in Connecticut. And I was hoping you could draw a dinosaur, maybe, biting Jamie's head off, or maybe a dinosaur eating Mary Alice, something like that. But before we do
So
that,
I'm bringing out my easel here, which is actually a 6-foot folding table.
before
Hey,
we do
Jerry,
that,
if you could switch that back over to me, I want to show people how to make an easel.
okay, switch it over. There
All
you
right,
go.
so this is a 6-foot folding table. And if any illustrators or authors are online, when I go to schools, they never have a good easel. So Jerry and I were actually in Michigan one time, and this guy was looking for an easel, and we looked over, and there was a 6-foot folding table. And so I took the legs down, and if you prop it up on its side like this, now you've got an easel. And it's 6 feet tall, and you can actually take paper onto it, and it makes it a nice drawing surface. Now, Jerry, you can go back to that. I see Pam Ryan came in there. Hey, Pammy.
It says, Mike Shoulders says, question, do you paint by hand or on computer? Ralph is all by hand.
So
in
here's
fact, my books
I
are oils. The Skull Alphabet book is oils on canvas. No tricks at all. No tricks at all. Oils on canvas.
I
It
forgot
says,
to
"Hi,
mention
Ralph."
this book by Pam Ryan too.
Yeah, you did that part too.
This is one of my favorite books. Let me get. Here's the old version, and there's the 10th anniversary edition. So you can see, I love the font that it shows there. And that book's actually dedicated to my dad, who was a World War II veteran.
Pammy Ryan says, "Hi, Ralphie. Carousel horse still hangs in my living room. Tell the hat story." I don't know what the hat story is. And then a lady named Lynette says, "I had to create an ebook for a college class. Used my own pictures. It was fun, simple, but self-published. Lots of kids. Have lots of kids wash their hands." Mike Shoulder says, "People have no idea what author illustrators do to create their books. No idea." Well, there you go, Ralphie. Hey, before
Right,
you
so I'll
go,
get my tape
kids,
out.
look at this. There's the cover of the reptile book, kids. And here's the original artwork, which I have. There's the original artwork right there. Whoa. See? I could put it right. Wow. I could put it right there. Look at that. There it is right there on top of it. I like that. So go ahead. Are you ready, Ralph?
I'm almost ready. Let me just get some markers out of my
Let's film
bag
another
here.
cover I have.
I might move the easel a little closer to the screen here. My easel table. Again, the table, the 6-foot folding table, is my favorite surface to work on. I don't like those tripod easels. They don't work very well. See if you can
Hey,
see
kids,
that
look at
without
that. There
a
is,
glare.
kids, look at that. There is the cover. Whoops.
Look,
There's the
upside
cover
down.
to the
You got it upside down. Jerry, you got it upside down.
I have it upside down. That's why I'm not the illustrator. There's the cover to the Extinct book. And here it is right here. Ralph, I love the Extinct cover. That's really beautiful.
Thank you, Jerry.
Really beautiful.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a picture of me in the morning before I have my first cup of coffee. So there's a bump on the top of my head, and the line goes out, and the line going like that is a nostril, and my big eyeball.
This is you drinking coffee before you drink coffee.
This is before I have my coffee. So I get up in the morning, I'm kind of grouchy. There's the back of my head, there's the front of my mouth, and there's my jawbone. And let's put a flap of reptile skin there, some gums, and we'll put some teeth in its mouth. And we go. I'm getting older, so I get the little thing hanging down under here. So a little wrinkly line here, wrinkle line, and there's my little arm with two little fingers. Tough to hold your coffee with two fingers, and then another hand with some claws on it. And there's my belly and my back leg. And I'm getting a little old, so I got wrinkles on my belly here. There's my back leg going down like that, and then there's another knee, and maybe the back of the knee there, and some wrinkles here, and maybe a little ear thing. We'll put some stripes on the top of my head, maybe some on my back. And so I like to go into the forest in the morning, go for a little walk in the forest. So I'll put some little, weeds or something here, and maybe there's a mountain in the background. Maybe there's another big mountain here. Oh no, there's some smoke coming out of that mountain. That can't be good. Oh no, look, a meteor's coming from outer space, gonna bonk me on the top of my head. Wait a second. Here's a cup of coffee. Oh no, it's spilling. And there you have it. Picture of what I look like in the morning before I have my first cup of coffee. So normally when I do school visits, I'll do something like this as the kids are walking in so that they can actually, have something to do while they're being assembled and being getting ready to be seated. So I'll draw a dinosaur. Kids love dinosaurs, or dragons or something like that. I want to draw something step by step for kids that are, I don't know how many kids you have here on the program, but I'd like to draw something that's going to be in one of my next books. And it's really, really simple. I use a lot of shapes when I draw for kids in schools, simple shapes, circles, squares, things like that. So this is actually going to be in a book about goofy monsters. So can I do that one, Jerry?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so let me just peel this thing off. I grab another piece of paper. I'll sell that on Craigslist for 75 cents later.
I'll give you 76 cents.
When I go to schools, all those illustrators out there that might be listening, I'm like the bad guy that goes into schools and draws a picture for every single teacher in the school. When I was in San Antonio, Texas, a few years ago, there was one school that had 138 teachers in the school. Guess how many drawings I did that day? 138 drawings.
Wow.
I did enough drawings. So every classroom teacher had their own drawing that they could take and share in their classroom. I did it for even all the specials too. So this is going to be a baby monster. So I want to do a silly monster drawing book. This is one of my next ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a big circle. There's the baby's head. And again, another circle. There's the baby's body. And a belly button. So you can put a belly button on it. So you got just two simple circles and a little tiny circle for a belly button. Now you can have things like you could have a hula skirt on there or something. But I'm going to put underpants. It's Captain Baby Monster Underpants. Don't tell, who's it, Dave Pilkey? He did the Captain Underpants. Captain Baby Monster Underpants. I want to put a T-shirt on there. So what I'm going to do between the big circle and a small circle. I'll make a line that goes out this way, and a line that goes out this way, a line that goes down and then in, and a line that goes down and then in. And this T-shirt trunk in the dryer, so I'll make a little line goes up like that. And now you can have any kind of legs you want on yours, but I want to make my own type of legs, or maybe a fin. So you could do something. You could have like octopus tentacles or something. You have robot legs or jet engines coming out of the bottom. So I'll make a wiggly line and a wiggly line, and then a line that goes out, a line that goes out, and a wiggly line going in, and a wiggly line going in. Put the lines on that. And you can put some letter U's in here, or letter C's. Now, the arms, you can have whatever kind of arm you want on yours. But I like to do, for kids, I like to teach kids about lobster claws. And Jerry's a big lobster guy. He's been lobstering. How long have you been lobstering, Jerry, since you were a baby?
50 years.
50 years. He's a serious lobstering guy. So one of the things I notice about when kids draw crab claws or lobster claws, they make the opening of the claw way too big. Now, lobsters and crabs, they have a lot of muscle right in there, okay? So kids draw claws that are wide open, but there's no muscle. That's not a very strong claw. So you need to make the muscle. So what's the big claw called, Jerry?
Cruncher.
The cruncher claw. So we're going to make
Cruncher
a line that goes
claw.
up and over and down. So there's it's like a hill. You go over and down a hill. And then you're going to go make a little rounded part on the end. You're going to go about halfway, only about halfway. So you're going over, then about halfway. Then you go out a little bit, then in a little bit. Now you have a little thumb, a little line that goes like this, and then a little bumpy line like that. Now you want to do what's the other claw called?
Scissors claw.
Okay,
Scissors
so make
claw.
this one. I call it the pincher claw, but it's more pointed. So you go out, make a little point on the end, and then you're gonna go again about halfway because you need that muscle right there. And you go down and in.
Oh, I see what you
go-
mean about the muscle. I see what you mean.
It needs the muscle right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes people make the opening go all the way back. There's no muscle. And then you put little spiky things in this one. This one has more like teeth almost like on it. You put some on it, bristles. And look, thing. I could do an ear, better, and then a line goes up like this. And then I want to have one giant eye. You can have as many eyes as you want, but I'm going to make a circle and a circle. Now, what I tell kids is you always leave a white spot somewhere on the eye to make it look shiny. So I'll leave a little white spot there. And you can have a big giant mouth here if you want, but I'm going to have a little baby mouth. Tiny baby mouth. Oh, it's a cute little baby. And then you can put a hat on its head or whatever you want. I'm going to put a rectangle. I do this one at schools a lot. And then I go, line going out, line going out, line going out, line going out, wiggly line, rectangle, and a curly baby hair. They have, but there's a problem with this. I made a mistake. Here's a mistake. This was never a belly button. It was always an eyeball. Yeah.
Very good, Ralph.
I'm going to turn it over to you, Jerry, while I move this out of the way.
Ralphie, terrific job. Let's see. I have a few more paintings to show kids. Here's another painting. And I did a counting book with Ralph, and this one counts blister beetles. And you can see the beautiful painting he did. And he hid the rocks in there, and the rocks sort of confuse the kids when they're counting. That's pretty good. So I'll show it to you in the book. There's the painting, the actual painting, and somehow I got it. And there, how do you like that? There it is, page 25 in the book. And of course, Ralph and I played a joke on you all when we did this book. It's actually a backwards alphabet book. So I remember when I first met Ralph, probably in Dunkin' Donuts, and I said, "Hey, Ralphie."
So it was at IHOP.
No, when we worked on this book, I said, "Ralphie, this is what we're going to do. Page 1 is 1 zebra swallowtail butterfly, and it's Z. And page 2 is Y, because we're doing the alphabet backwards. Yellow jacket flies, Y. X, Y, Z. Page 3 is a Xerositis, I guess it's called, but they're these spiders, right? So there's X, and then W, X, Y, Z, W. There's the wasps.
Yeah, the
Wasps.
X is Zysticus elegans.
Zysticus elegans is right.
Yes.
So you go all the way to the beginning, at the end of the book, page 26. So why would we have a book count to 26? Most counting books count to 10, or they count to 25. Ralph and I like to be different. Why do we count to 26? We counted to 26 because it's a backwards alphabet book. And what's the A page? Army ants. Army ants. And of course, the one I already showed you, blister beetles, that's B. So we really wrote a backwards alphabet book. And by the way, I love the flag book. It's really beautiful. And
there's a request by Mike Shoulders to tell the story of the carousel horse in the background here, and also Pam Ryan. I love this book. I share this all the time. It's the most meaningful book to me because of my dad. It's dedicated to my dad. So the carousel horse back there. There's the Pegasus right there. That's a painting from the Mystic Files book. So the carousel horse there for a bunch of years in late 80s, early 1990s, I was doing a lot of paintings of carousel horses. They were really popular, and people were buying like crazy. And one painting was 8 foot high, 6 foot wide. Was in an art gallery in Hawaii. It actually got stolen out of the gallery. It was found by the FBI 2 years later in Maryland. It's kind of cool. But this is actually one of my first carousel horse paintings. I never liked the way the carousel horses were stuck on the carousel when I was a kid. It always bothered me. So I started painting carousel horses that were out in nature. But this is a representational self-portrait. People are like, what do you mean by that? Well, this is me. All my family, generation after generation after generation, everybody's been in the construction business. And I'm the first person in my immediate family to hop off that cycle of people doing the same things and go out into the scary world of being an artist. And I made the water kind of misty. So water represents rebirth or baptism. So it's rebirth or baptism into this new thing. And it's not really a real horse. It's not really a wooden horse. It's kind of going through a transformation. And the pole represents the pole to go back to the stable family environment where I could have a construction job any day of the week if I wanted to, but I wanted to do this. This is what I wanted to do. And it's called Spirit of the Carousel. And it's a portrait of me, a representational portrait of me wanting to become an artist and wanting to go out into this scary world of who knows what's going to happen. So that's me.
That is a terrific story, and you are wonderful to be with, Ralph. And I thank you for coming on the show. Teachers, kids, parents, grandparents, whoever's out there, thank you very much for watching us today. Thank you, Ralph, for coming on. I know you just moved, and
My pleasure.
It was a real effort to come up today. And yeah, I haven't decided if the background is a painting you did to make it look like you're organized, or if it's that really organized, No,
if I showed you the rest of the place, you'd be like, oh my God, poor guy. There's boxes and boxes and boxes on top of boxes and empty boxes and empty bins. I'm like,
I know this much. We're going to have you on again. There's plenty more paintings. The kids would love to see you draw.
I would love to draw some more. I can do robots, and I can do dragons, and plenty more. There's a unicorn that I normally draw with kids. Kind of like a sea unicorn that I draw.
For my granddaughter Maeve and my granddaughter Sloane, they love unicorns. I'm going to have you draw a unicorn next time we're on. Hey, thank you, everybody. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody, for coming online.
And we'll see you Monday at 11 a.m. Bye.